Ellen again. 19 is one of my lucky numbers, and we're on stream number 19, so I have a feeling this is gonna go well. Hopefully we will figure out how to, figure out the answer to the question that we're asking with the cotton today, which is the same answer that we were looking for last time, which is exactly how much tension should we add when making pins. Good morning, Ciaro. You are still a mod. Yeah, it was not my intent. I've been trying to figure out how to undo that while not on stream, because when I'm on stream, I kind of don't want to, because I'm, streaming, and I can't figure out how. So as long as you're okay with it, I might just leave it for now until I can figure it out, because I know there is a way. It's just nothing that I'm trying is working. So we're just gonna start out with the traditional wool warm-up, because otherwise what else would I do? We're getting pretty close to the end. I think there's like 2 or 3 more strips left on that bat. And then it's time to actually decide how the hell I'm gonna do with this. Because I still don't know. I've been running around in circles thinking about it. I don't know how either, but it's fine with you to leave it for now. All right, thank you. I appreciate it. I will, after the stream tonight, I will put some more time into it and hopefully figure it out this time. YouTube does not make a whole lot of sense to me, I'm not gonna lie. And so I get stuck in these weird little loops with like a lot of different things, not just with mods and stuff like that. I'm honestly not very technologically inclined, as you might be able to tell from my choice of hobbies. Although I do think like there are certainly people who are big fans of technology who are spinners. There's no way it's just Luddites like me. It makes sense though. I feel like spinning has so much to offer. Like to so many different people, it's such a tactile experience. And just for that reason alone, I feel like anybody could enjoy it. They have the temperament for it. I think every time I spin more of this wool, I'm reinforcing the fact that I don't want to think about it. It's really inconsistent between one bit of, like one type of wool to the next. Because I really didn't blend them, I just layered them, which is what it's what a blending board does. It doesn't actually blend things, it layers them. And layering, it means that like you have to diz it or something else. You do some other process to it to actually blend the fibers afterwards. And I have not done that because I can't really be bothered. This whole bat is just sort of there to have something woolen to spin and also to use up wool. But that said, I want to come up with a good thing to do with it. Just have not yet. If it were thicker or more consistent, I might leave it as a singles. But it's very, very thin and fairly inconsistent. It's not really singles territory to me. I don't know. Maybe once I've like finished spinning it and can take a picture of it in better light, like put a poll up or something and ask people what they think the best thing is. That's not usually how I do my wool stuff, but when I get really stuck, I kind of just want somebody else to figure it out for me. So that might happen. We'll see. So last time, we did, I think it was 9 punis, and I was sort of figuring it out by maybe the 9th one, maybe. And since then, I've forgotten all of it, which I had a feeling that would happen. So this might be like a multi-day thing just for figuring out this one particular issue, which is okay. I mean, either way, I'm getting practice with all of it, so I don't think it's a bad thing. But I didn't think that figuring out how to tension when I was rolling it up, I didn't think that would really be the hardest part, but so far it has been. I also think that it might be kind of hard to figure out how much I should put on them. That might be difficult as well. So I seem to have saved all the hard ones for last, which is probably the right way to have done that. So that's fine. Chuck looks so beleaguered right now, even though I gave her a bunch of treats and refilled her food right before I started singing. In fact, why I'm late. It's nothing to her. She's like, I needed 4 or 5 times that treats. Just one treat isn't enough. She's laying on my bed, giving me very sad eyes. I finally finished the flax and Southdown hat. I got it like finished but unwearable. I don't know, like a week or 2 ago. And by unwearable, really, the cast off was way too tight. I redid it twice and it was still way too tight, so I let it sit for a little while. But today, on my way to a dentist appointment, I actually finished it off, and I finished it the way that I had meant to the first couple of times and just forgot about it, which was with 100% flax for the last 2 rows of the brim. And the reason I wanted to do that was just because I have a feeling that the flax Southdown blend is not that durable, due to, mostly I think due to the amount of twist in it. I under twisted it pretty severely, which is a problem that I frequently have on my e-spinner, my EEW Nano. I have a really hard time judging the amount of twist, just because it moves so fast, so I can't really keep up with it. That's the problem I had the whole time with that thing. But yeah, I finished it up, and I'm very happy with it. It is quite cool in terms of temperature, not in terms of how it looks. It doesn't look very good on me. I don't really think I care. When you're in a power chair, like, people only see the power chair. They don't really see what you look like. So I just wanted a hat that was good for summer, and I think I have made that. I had to take pictures of it this afternoon, but I came home and just like immediately passed out. I was very sleepy. Still am somewhat. But even being sleepy will not stop me from swimming. I think we're almost done with this strip, and then it'll be back to cotton. This one's actually going faster than they usually do. Or maybe I'm just spinning a little bit faster, but I feel like most of the time I'm working on the wool warm up for about half an hour. And I definitely am more than halfway done, and we're only 10 minutes in, so I don't really know what's up with that. I might have just torn a very thin strip off of it. Not sure. I don't think I'm spinning it that much thicker than normal, if at all. Really hard to judge that though, because I don't take samples like a fool. There's this one skein of yarn that I spun where one of the plies, I think it's a 2-ply, one of the plies is pure yellow, and the other one is sort of a marled green and yellow. And it's one of my favorite skeins I've ever spun. It's really, really beautiful. And I'm kind of wondering if something like that might work. The only issue is I don't have that yellow anymore. In fact, I don't have like any yellow. I've used it all up. And while I could certainly dye stuff yellow, I'm not really looking to start a new project. And I don't even know what fiber I would use. So that is, I don't know, yellow is certainly not going to work for this, but there's got to be something else that will. I do think that the green that I have that makes this up could work, but the color progression is just not going to exist anymore. It's just going to be sort of variegated, which isn't, I don't know, that's not necessarily what I want, but it wouldn't be terrible. I don't know what I want at this point anyway. That's probably what I am going to do now that I think about it, because it's either that or it's white, and I've tried doing white in this kind of situation before, and I was really disappointed with how washed out it turned out. I don't think I really need to learn that lesson twice. And I don't think I have anything else that's suitable, so I guess we will probably be good. Unless I find some stuff that I didn't know I have in my wool storage. Which is possible, because I definitely have a bunch of stuff in there that I don't know about. But unlikely, because I don't think I'm going to go through it anytime soon. Down to the last little handful. So I think with the cotton, I'm trying to remember how it went. I think we came to the conclusion that, or at least I came to the conclusion. I don't know how anybody else necessarily feels about my experiments. I think it's hard to argue because you can't actually see what I'm doing. But if you could, I think it would be very easy to argue with my conclusions. But anyway, I came to the conclusion that only adding tension when I was wrapping it rather than doing any pre-drafting, which doesn't make a ton of sense, but I'll show you what I mean when I'm doing it. That does not seem to work. That led to some really lumpy and inconsistent singles, and I was not able to really control the diameter when I did it like that, so they were too thin as well. So I don't think that's what we want to do. I think there is sort of a middle ground in there that I was struggling to figure out. So we're probably going to continue exploring that middle ground and see if we can get there. No promises that we will, but one can hope. Last time I did, like I made a puni and then I spun it and then made another one and then spun it. And I think we're going to do that this time too, because otherwise I will forget like what each one is before I even spun it. And then I'm doing like nothing. We'll do that again. We also accidentally, I think it might have been 2 streams ago now, I accidentally left the whirl on medium instead of on low, which is what I had been spinning my cotton at, because medium had been too fast. But we left it there on accident, and I've left it there ever since, and it's worked really well. It's been a lot easier to add the necessary amount of twist to it. So we're going to leave it there, and I don't think I'm going to change it back unless there's a very compelling reason, which I don't think there will be. It was really difficult to get enough twist with the low whirl. It's just that at the time I was drafting so slowly that there wasn't really any other option. But I'm not doing that anymore. I think I've managed to speed up how fast I can draft it. Damn it. I was just at the last little bit anyway, so I think we're going to call it on the wool there. Just wrap it in a way that makes it obvious where the end is. There we go. It's getting pretty big. And I really like how it looks. It's very beautiful. I need to actually take a picture so that you guys can see it, because I've tried holding the colors up to the camera before while looking at the screen, and it just looks like mush. But it's very pretty. All right. So, back to usual business. I keep noticing that there's little bits of like green and blue in the finished yarn when I've been making those washcloths. And I only just now realized what it was. Probably should have realized sooner. But when I picked up this cotton, some of the like wool from the bat came with it, and I was like, oh, this is the exact same color. That's what it was. All right. I think that should be a decent amount. Turn the camera again. Down a bit. There we go. We've just been sticking with 2 passes this whole time since we did those number of pass experiments. And I don't think I've noticed any problems, but I also think I wouldn't notice any problems. I think I would only notice problems if I actually tried more passes again, but I don't want to. This seems to be working okay, so. Okay. All right, so we sort of want 50-50 in terms of what we're doing here. We want some tension, like some tension from drafting it out and some tension from rolling it tightly, I think. But one thing I noticed was that more tension is not better necessarily. Like, no tension does not work, but you don't want 100% like pulling really hard on it in every aspect, because that doesn't really work either. So I don't know, it's it's sort of like threading a needle in high winds. It's not super easy, and it's also kind of hard to tell whether I'm even doing it right or not. All right, here's the first one. This one is frowning a lot, like immediately, so I'm guessing it's on the lower end of both, which isn't what I was going for, but that is okay. We'll spin it nonetheless. I wish that there was another thing I could do to measure. How do I do that first every time? Pre-draft. I wish there was something else I could do to measure how much tension in the finished Pumi, because I think the frown test, as I call it, is not, like, it doesn't actually tell me very much. I don't know exactly what it responds to necessarily, but I can't think of another test. Like there's no other indication that I can really see of what I've done in each one. So I don't know. Okay. I do think that this is going to make a super nice blanket. Because I've done, I think, 4 or 5, if not more, washcloths now. And um, I was sort of testing how warm they are, even at that thickness, which is a lot thicker than the actual blanket will be. And what I found was they're not very warm at all. Like they're sort of perfect. So that's exciting. Very excited to get a start on this blanket. I lost all my twist. Damn it. Having to do this on stream every day is kind of making me wonder if I need to figure out leaders. I've gone like a minimum of 5 or 6 years not using leaders. I think longer than that. I don't think I ever really understood them. And I don't really want to start now, but if it would eliminate the fumbling every time, it might be worth it. I don't know. The thing is, I watch people with leaders fumble too. And I fumble with leaders. Like, I have a hard time with them. That's why I don't use them. So I don't know if it would even help, but like tying it on has gotten a little bit harder. Oh. Okay, so the take up on the wheel was way too high and it was making it much thinner than I wanted it to be. Which is not something I realized before, but it seems like having a super high take up will kind of cause problems. So good to know. Now that I've done all of those washcloths, I think I've come to the conclusion that it doesn't need to be bulky, which is what I had been aiming for. I think that worsted weight is just fine, and it will probably be a bit more durable. You like leaders, but that's how you learned. Yeah, that's seems to be the consensus. Is that however you learn is kind of your how you prefer it. I learned with no leaders. Like I tried to learn with leaders and I couldn't figure it out. So I switched to no leaders and then it was making sense. So I learned with no leaders. I wonder if that's just sort of how it's going to be, which is okay. Well, that makes me think that maybe there is no advantage. It's just what we prefer. That is often the case in fiber arts. But anyway, knowing that worsted weight is okay makes it actually a lot easier to do this because I can get a 3-ply worsted weight off of fairly thin singles, especially with cotton because it shrinks and blooms quite a bit. So that means the main thing is just trying to keep it slubs, and really worse than slubs is wispy bits that just stick out because those are not going to wear super well. Whereas slubs can wear fine. It really depends on if you bring them correctly or not. It's way too thin. Okay, that's one down. My impressions of that one is that it needed a little bit more tension in there, but it wasn't too bad. Like, I didn't get very many slubs, but I did get, it was a little too thin. We're going to try it with higher tension, which is what I meant to do in the first place. Hopefully that'll help. It's kind of crazy to me that I have spun like a total of 100 yards, and that is it. It's so little, and I spent so much time on it. It's crazy how slow thick spinning goes. Like, you need a lot less yarn to actually make your project, but God, at what cost? Okay. See if this one will behave. That's sort of the problem that I've been having. Well, there's a couple main problems. The first problem is that I don't really remember what I did by the time I'm making the next roll lag. That's the first problem, and there's not a lot I can do about that other than physically taking notes, which is kind of the last resort. I don't really want to do that on stream. And then the other problem is that even if I do remember, like in this case, I do remember, actually executing that is difficult because I have so little practice with this. Basically, I'm not really good enough to actually do what I'm trying to do, even if I remember what that is. When I put it like that, it's like, oh, no shit, I'm having problems. That's fine, though. At the end of the day, I do this for the joy of it, you know? Even if it all turned out bad and I never figured it out, that is okay. I would just switch to something that actually, whoa, well, damn it. I just pulled the entire thing off. That was not intentional. So I'm going to give it another pass so that I can seed it on the combs again, or on the cards again, rather. Maybe I need to be patting it down the way that I had been doing at one point. I thought I didn't need to anymore, but jeez, this is so fluffy. Wow, I almost want to spin this. It looks like it would be really nice to spin. Not gonna do it though. Trying to focus, damn it. Okay. Anyway, even if I never figured this out, I would just stop doing it and switch to something that I know I like. I think that would be fine. But luckily, I am super enjoying this, even though it's very hard. In fact, I think the reason that it's hard is why I'm enjoying it. Typically with spinning, I don't do a lot that's difficult for me, which is in part because I don't find wool to be difficult, except in terms of the immutable aspects of the memory disorder. But that's something that affects every part of my life, so it doesn't really feel like a spinning thing. So yeah, I'm not usually spinning things that are difficult, and I forgot how much I like the challenge. I really do. Okay, this is definitely more promising. And I think I'm getting a good middle ground of drafting and rolling with not too much tension for either, but not none, you know. Now, the other thing I've been sort of experimenting with, and I haven't actually talked about it at all, but I've been rolling it along the comb or along the cards after I finished making it, just to kind of neaten it up a little, because I found when I don't add a lot of extra tension, it's sort of messy on the outside, and I'm theorizing that that leads to some messiness. in the actual singles. So as you can see, this one does not, like, it frowns a bit, but not dramatically and not too quickly. So I'm curious how this one will work out. Hopefully we will not need to do as many punis as we did last time. Last time we did 9. I would like to stick with 6. 6 feels doable at the moment. I think I can up that when I'm no longer experimenting, but the experimenting part definitely takes extra time. It's coming out thinner than I want it to, still. Maybe I just need to focus a little more on actually making it thicker. There also seems to be quite a big effect on the yarn as I'm spinning, depending on how much twist is built up when I actually start drafting. I don't know if that makes sense. I'm not sure how else to explain it. But like as I treadle, if I wait a moment before I actually start drafting, now there's quite a bit of twist built up, and I can't tell if that makes it thinner or thicker. Like it's really hard to tell what it actually does, but it definitely does something. It's not something I've noticed with wool, so I don't know if maybe it doesn't do that with wool or what. Maybe it's just not something I need to focus on with wool because I sort of have the rest of it under control. I don't know. I also don't spin like this with wool. I don't use long draw at all. I think it's only working at the moment because this is a short fiber. And I'm pretty sure if I switch to something that was like 3 or 4 inch staple length, as is quite common with wool, I don't think it would work. But I'm more of a, like I tend to keep my hands in the same place as I spin and not move them around a lot. This is quite a different spinning style than what I'm used to. It's fun though. No, get away from me. Squeaking yet again. I can't remember if it does this more often in summer or not. I mean, it's definitely doing it pretty often right now. I'm not a huge fan. Oh, great. Now we've got a different squeak. Much better. As far as I can tell, it literally is just how I treadle that changes whether or not it's squeaking, which is really odd. I'm basically at the end of this puni, and it's spun up much better. I've still had some thin spots, but that one I think is just a skill issue. And mostly it's been thicker and like more under my control. So I think we're going to try and do the same thing we just did. I don't think that having to reseat it and doing that extra pass actually did anything. Like, I don't think it affected how it spun up. Mostly because I spent pretty much that entire pass just reseating it on the cards. Wasn't actually doing much mixing or opening. So yeah, I think we can safely stick with 2. It's interesting that one of the few things that doesn't really change from wool to cotton in this particular situation is that you can do the exact same sort of drag the fiber across the cards that I do with wool. You can do that with cotton too. And in fact, it's works quite well for both of them. The way that I don't know if was taught is necessarily an accurate description, but the way that I was told to load the cards when I first started was to lay them all neatly in a line. And I stopped doing that very quickly because it took a long time. And you had to like pick the locks first too, to be able to lay them neatly in a line. And I saw that on basically every carding video or book or diagram that I found. They all said you should lay it neatly in a line. And I have found that to be a massive waste of time, and doesn't actually help you at all. Like first you have to pick the locks, then you have to lay them down nicely. Whereas with the method that I started doing pretty quickly, you can actually just grab a handful of fleece and drag it over the cards a couple times, and then you're good to go. So all the time that you save in reorienting it on the cards, you lose anyway, because you have to pick it first and lay it down. So yeah, interestingly, cotton does the same thing. I'm not sure what other method I actually could use. Like this is the only one that makes sense for cotton. There's a couple different ways to do it for wool, but like I don't know what else I could possibly do with cotton. Other than, I suppose, not card it at all. I saw someone bowing cotton again, which I'm so interested in. I've never actually bowed fiber. It's one of the few preps I haven't tried because I don't have a bow. Although I guess I could make one pretty damn easily. Like, not a real bow, but one for this application. Funnily enough, I was really obsessed with making completely non-functional bows as a kid. Like I'd find sticks that looked good, and then I'd get some twine, and I'd I'd clean up the stick really nice, and I'd turn it into a bow. But one, I never made arrows, and two, it didn't seem to work. None of them ever. I had kind of forgot that I did that. It's fun. I grew up in a really rural area, and we had dial-up until I was a teenager. And I'm not that old, so pretty much everybody else had like high-speed internet at that point, and we were still rocking dial-up. So I spent most of my time outdoors as a kid. I really enjoyed it. And it did lead to me doing some odd things like that. I also got into defacing US currency by, sort of smithing, if you can call it that, coins. Pennies, it turns out, it's really easy to turn them into these cool flat discs. So I destroyed a lot of pennies, which I did not know was illegal. But then once I found out it was illegal, I was like, well, how are they even going to know? And thus began my life of crime. Although you kind of have to stay on the straight and narrow in a wheelchair, I'm not going to lie. It's very different. My life of crime has since ended, sadly. You used to make bows and arrows too. That's cool. That was in the 80s. Yeah. Not much changed, I guess. I mean, hell, it was fun, so why not, right? Did yours work? Mine never worked at all, so I kind of hesitate to call them bows. But they would work just fine for bowing cotton, I think. Like, they had the string, and they had the shape, and you could pluck them, so that's really all you need to bow cotton. But you certainly couldn't shoot off them. I had arrows from like a toy archery set that I used, and that thing worked just fine. And I would try to string the bow with the arrow and see what happened, and it never went farther than about a foot. Yours worked okay? Nice. Yeah, I don't think I understood anything about bow construction, which definitely did not help. Um, but also, I was kind of too caught up in carving them nicely to care a ton that they didn't work. It was more about the decoration, if I have to be honest. So that puni, that one worked really well, actually. And I did maybe 60% the amount of tension that I could have done for both drafting it and for rolling it. So we're going to try doing that again and see if I can repeat it. I think if we can repeat it 3 or 4 times in a row, we'll call it good. I think that should be enough. But that's also kind of a tall order. You definitely were looking things up at the library about it. Ah, okay. I did not do that. That's probably what I needed to have done. That's very cool, though. I do find that I tend to have a lot more in common when it comes to my childhood with people who are raised in the 80s and early 90s than I do with people who are raised when I was raised, which was the aughts. I was born in the late 90s, so. But I think it's like my parents were and still are to some degree Luddite hippies. And they moved to a very rural area on purpose so as to avoid the march of technology, which is not necessarily what everybody in the 80s were doing, but like I grew up with 80s tech and with a very 80s approach to parenting as well, from my parents, that is. Definitely glad to not be a kid anymore. My parents were not great as parents, to put it very mildly. And the lack of control over my own life was constantly maddening. And that's, I mean, I don't think any adult really has full control over their life because there's always outside influences of some kind that compel you to behave in a way that you don't want to, whether it's what other people want from you or just the circumstances you're having to live in, or something fully out of your control, like disability, in my case, is the big one. But even so, there's a big difference between being an adult and intrinsically not having full control of your life, and being a kid and not getting to pick basic things such as what you eat or what you wear or what your hair looks like or where you go or like literally anything. Yeah, I don't miss that. That's for sure. Being a kid sucked. Yeah, definitely agreed. Yeah, being an adult is cool. I went to the store today and I bought 4 pizzas. I'm lactose intolerant, and I could not have done that, but nobody can stop me, and I can eat my 4 pizzas over a very long period of time if I wish. And I certainly could not have done that as a kid. So I was just thinking about it at the store, actually. Like, it's not that I can buy whatever I want because I'm pretty broke, as are most people right now. But I also still can kind of buy whatever I want within reason, which is very fun. I've been trying to be a little bit more proactive about pulling out debris because I'm finding in my finished yarns there's a lot of debris and it needs to be removed because it's pretty pokey. And I don't like, I'd rather do it now than as a finished yarn because I feel like I still have some chances to sort of hide the damage to the fiber that I'm doing. Because when I ply it, you know, it's at least 2/3 of that is going to be tucked away in between the other plies, plural, that is. Whereas if I do it as a finished yarn, I'm kind of just abrading the surface of the yarn when I pull it out, because it still doesn't come out easily as a finished yarn. And I would rather avoid that if I can. Of course, that said, I'm not actually sure whether I'll even notice it in the blanket. My flax blanket, it's got some rough spots, but I don't notice it when I'm using it as a blanket. I usually sleep with a lot, like everything covered, like long pajama pants and often a long sleeve shirt. So most of it's not really touching me anyway. And what is touching me, but that said, for washcloths at least, I definitely don't want all those pokey bits on there. I'm curious if I'm gonna scrape up my face when I actually use these things. It's possible. I haven't used them yet at all. I want to wash them first, I think. In part because I want to see what they look like once they've been washed, because I think it'll be a pretty big change. But also because in case this is chemicals on it, I don't really want to be rubbing that on my face. So I think throwing it in the wash at least once is probably wise. Okay. This was not as neat as the other one, but it was still neater than a lot of the ones that I've done. So we're going to count that as a decent success as well. Being an adult is okay, but better than being a kid. Yeah, like I don't love being an adult. There's some misery, but it's certainly an improvement. You do think the things you dislike about being an adult would mostly be fixed with a little more money. Yeah, for real. Like, I don't know about you, but the main thing that really blows as an adult is spending, 90% of my free time doing boring shit I don't care about, like work and cleaning my apartment. And then the other 10% of the time is doing things like this, spinning and knitting and stuff like that. And that kind of just is what it is. And that's not going to change unless I switch like part time or something like that. As a kid, I had a lot more time to play, partly because I didn't do my homework ever. But like, you can not do your homework as a kid and still live. Whereas it's a lot harder to not do your work as an adult and still have somewhere to live. It's pretty different. Yeah. I think that's also part of living alone. There's kind of going to be more chores when living alone because they're not split between multiple people. Like you can go grocery shopping for 2 people and it's not going to take a whole lot longer than grocery shopping for 1 person. But I also, living alone is the best choice I ever made. Well, no, there's better choices, but it's a good choice that I made, and I'm glad I did it. I didn't realize how much I hate constantly being around other people, whether I like am okay with it or not. Like I like streaming, I can really pick and choose, and I can turn it off as soon as I'm done being around other people. And this is kind of my main social interaction at the moment because I don't have to leave my apartment for it. But when I lived with other people, it was like somebody was constantly in the kitchen when I wanted to be in the kitchen. That was my main gripe. It's like there's always somebody in my fucking kitchen. Now it's just me in my kitchen, which is a big improvement. Damn it. I did it again. That's annoying. I don't really like having to reseat this. I feel like I lose a fair amount of fiber to the air when I do. So I'm just going to try and get it back onto the cards. I don't know why this has started happening now when it didn't happen like the last 10 cotton streams. But it's certainly happening now. Okay, take 2. You definitely need a lot of loading time too. Yeah, I'm glad it's not just me. I do work a customer service job, and I'm basically always talking to somebody, if not patients, then my coworkers or my supervisor or something. Pretty much always talking at work, and that gets very tiring. But even in my non-customer service jobs, like I'm okay interacting with people at work, but when I'm at home, I really need to be just alone. Is what seems to be the case for me. And there's also quite a difference between interacting with people on stream or online over the phone than there is interacting with them in real life. For example, on stream, nobody can tell that I would not make eye contact. I don't even think you can make eye contact on stream. Like, if you're making eye contact with the camera, that means you're looking at a camera, which is still not the same as making eye contact with a real person. I hate eye contact, so. All right, so this one seems about the same amount of frowning as the last couple. That's good. Hopefully we are reaching some kind of consistency. Hopefully. But I'd be a little surprised if we were. I feel like most of this hasn't gone quite that smoothly. I don't hear any sounds you're making either. Yeah, that's true. Kind of just hear my own sounds, but then I can still get feedback via text, which is preferred, honestly. It's definitely, like, I've done quite a lot of knit groups and crochet groups, not spin groups, because there's just a lot less spinners out there. So it's harder to find. But, like, I've done a lot of crafting groups, and they're pretty socially draining. Like, I enjoyed it, but there were so many little. For one thing, there always seems to be some kind of popularity contest going on, and there's in groups and out groups, even in very big informal knit and crochet groups. There seems to be that going on, and I really don't. I'm not good at navigating it, and I don't enjoy trying. But on stream, it's kind of just like there are two, possibly three types of people. The person streaming or people streaming is its own category. And then potentially mods or people with special permissions. And then lastly, the people watching. And sometimes mods / people with special permissions really still fall under the same category of people watching. And like, I don't know, I think I prefer that. I prefer that even when I'm not the streamer. That and like you can enjoy somebody's stream without having to actually interact with them or interact with anybody in the comments. I like that too. It's a really interesting new social dynamic that I don't think could have existed before the internet. Like, I've tried to think about what other times this sort of social situation might have occurred in human history, and I don't know that there are any. Maybe the closest you get is like being a teacher, but I've taught people, and it's very different than streaming. Like, this is mostly entertainment, not teaching. Whereas teaching is, if you're mostly entertainment as a teacher, you're doing something very wrong. So I don't know. It's nice though. I like it. I think I prefer it to my crafting group, to be honest. My crafting group also has been kind of making me miserable recently, so it's a low bar. But I really enjoy streaming a lot more than I thought I would. I thought that it would make me nervous because I am not a public speaker at all. I'm the guy who like got a nosebleed so severely during my English class presentation that I had to stop partway through. Like that's the kind of guy that I am. But this is like the main difficulty in streaming for me is like sometimes my words do not come out right at all, and I don't have a ton of control over that. So that can get kind of frustrating and sometimes embarrassing. But other than that, it's easy, it's enjoyable. And it feels like a good use of time because I'm also spinning at the same time. Okay, that one behaved really well too. So we'll keep going. Really, I think the main thing is I'm gonna have to develop muscle memory for exactly how to make these poonies because I don't think I'm ever gonna remember verbally how to do it. So doing more and more is only going to benefit me, I think. I think streaming would be fun too. Your internet isn't good enough. That sucks. I mean, I will say mine is terrible. It's so bad. I have trouble watching YouTube videos, but I have less trouble streaming than I do watching YouTube videos. Like it might be better than you think, or at least not need as good of an internet connection as you think. I'm sure that changes if you're trying to do high quality, but you need a good camera for that anyway. I don't know. If you ever give it a shot, I would certainly enjoy watching the stream. But I can understand not wanting to wrangle with your internet. I don't even want to wrangle with my internet. I think this is the 6th one. Yeah. It's nice that I can do one poonie per hook because then I can really easily count how many I've done. This is the 6th one. And we are only 1 hour in, which is crazy. Because plying it seems to take about 10 minutes, if that, for about this amount of singles. So I guess we won't stop at 6 because that would be a super short stream. And sometimes a super short stream is, you know, what I need. But in this case, I think I can keep going for at least another hour or so. This one broke as I was making it, so I don't anticipate that it will be the neatest or the best. But I was able to recover it pretty decently. And usually when it breaks, that's kind of like, there goes the possibility of it being a decent prep. Now this one is frowning quite a bit, fairly quickly as well, but we'll see if we can make it work. I think those breaks are going to happen no matter what sometimes. Like, obviously, as I get better at this, they'll happen less, but I think they'll still happen. And so being able to still spin it and not totally, like, not just add in an entire section where it's garbage, is also an important skill that I need to practice. So, okay. Also seems like a lot of tech stuff you don't want to figure out, but talking to people could be fun. Fair. That's why I haven't upgraded anything. I'm just using my webcam. And I don't know if I'll ever change that because, like, I don't know, this seems fine. Like, yes, I could put more effort into it and I could add a whole bunch of stuff and make it maybe a slightly nicer experience, but that would be at significant expense to myself. And I'm not making any money off this, obviously. I have like 25 subscribers. This is for free, for fun, for myself and everyone else involved. So I can't see myself ever bothering with, you know, better speakers or a better camera, unless, like, I actually was making some money from this, which seems wildly unlikely given the content. So I'm very happy with what I've got. This is actually better than I was hoping for. I was hoping for like occasional engagement, and most of the time there's at least 1 or 2 people on stream chilling, which makes it very fun. It's all I needed. This is working out decently, although there are sections where it doesn't work, and I'm guessing those are the sections around the break. But for the most part, it's working pretty well. I also started trying to compact down any bits that are really wispy. So, like, this isn't a great example because it could certainly be wispier, but hang on, there we go. This bit right here in the middle, pretty wispy. And that's not really going to compact itself down when I apply it. So what I've been doing is, if I can get it back on camera, come on, there we go. What I've been doing is basically just rolling it between my thumb and forefinger to compact it down. And now you can see no more wispiness. And I think that will lead to a more durable result. I've noticed the wispy sections can get abraded really easily, which makes perfect sense. So yeah, trying to get rid of those just requires me to actually notice that, though, and sometimes I don't. And also, it's kind of difficult to do because it's not round at that section. So like that. Oh, pie chunk. She just did a big stretch. Probably would be easier to do this if I could use wet hands. But the problem is wet hands for spinning cotton is not very fun and not very pleasant in a sense. Because it kind of just will start sticking to your hands. At least that's been my experience. But it would be so much easier to roll if it was. I almost wonder if it would ever be worth doing like a once over to do that. But I think it would only be worth it if I was ending up with lots and lots of bits like that. Whereas these are just occasional. So I would have to go through my entire singles bit by bit looking for any flyaways. And that just does not seem like it would ever be time effective. So I'm not going to do that. I'm pretty happy with this one too. Even though it broke, overall it's not bad. And it's, I think it's fairly consistent with regards to the other ones as well. So yeah, pretty pleased. So that was 6. We got 6 and the warm-up done in 1 hour. Actually kind of impressed. I'm going to need to get up to get more water at some point if I keep streaming. I think we'll just do some more and try and cement it in there. We'll probably keep going until we hit about an hour and a half, hour 40. Because that should give me plenty of time to apply it and still be under 2 hours. Not that I need to be under 2 hours, but the best time for streaming this, 6 p.m. my time, is also that's the best time for engagement. And it's more fun if there's a couple people in the comments, but it's not the best time for me necessarily. Like if I could pick, I'd probably do more like 5:30 or even 5 if I could swing it, but I don't get home at that time. But the problem is streaming until 8 p.m. That's kind of my bedtime because I get up really early because work starts really early. And if I go any later than that, like if I go till 9 or 10, I'm pretty severely cutting into my sleep. In this particular case, I'm not going to work tomorrow either because I had 2 appointments back to back. And for whatever reason, the way that it works out, I make slightly more money because I get some compensation for missed days due to disability. So, and I need every penny I can get. So yeah, if I have an appointment, I just take the whole day off. That's what I'm doing tomorrow. So I don't have to leave on time to sleep, but I kind of still want to because I'm pretty tired. So I probably will. I've noticed from doing those washcloths that my best work so far has been like my second and third attempts were really good. And I've not necessarily gotten better since then. Like in some ways, I've definitely gotten better. The amount of twist has really improved. So I've certainly gotten better there. But in terms of consistency, I have not improved since then. If anything, I seem to be sacrificing consistency a little bit. And I would like to walk that back if I can. Because it already wasn't that consistent to begin with, if we're being honest. All right, here's the 7th one. That's probably the least amount of frowning at all so far. So I might have added a bit too much tension. But we'll spin it anyway. We'll see what it does. if I did add too much tension, then I expect this to it to run a little too thin, because that seems to be something that happens when I add too much tension. Is it goes thinner than I want it to. So we'll have to see. Keep an eye on it. It's possible that that is an okay amount of tension, though. And in that case, it should be relatively easy to control, which this is, despite the fact that my wheel is clacking all over the place. Wow, you can really see like how uneven my wheel is, and how wobbly it is from this angle. It's not an angle, like I'm looking at my computer screen right now. It's not an angle that I ever really see my wheel from in use. But I didn't realize that, wow. That's definitely not intended and is also definitely the source of some of my problems. And additionally, is definitely Kromsky's fault, not my fault. I was thinking if I added some washers, that might be enough. Because at the moment, it's like there's kind of just too much space, and the wheel is not an even circle. The wheel not being an even circle is definitely the catalyst for this, I think. But the fact that there's room to wobble all over the place, that does not help, I think. So maybe I should add some washers. To be honest, though, I've been meaning to get washers and a couple of wing nuts for my loom for like almost a year, and I haven't done that. So the likelihood of me actually getting washers for this is fairly low. I would say overall this seems to be working. Like it's not coming out too thin, if that makes sense. This cotton has an awful lot more bounce to it than wool does. Just sort of plucking on it absent-mindedly. I feel like you could make a decent string, which is shocking. String like instrument string. Wool does not do that nearly as much. It is so satisfying to do that thing like with long draw where you draft out like you pull it and it's super lumpy and terrible, and then you just keep pulling and it smooths itself out. It's so satisfying. I wish I could get it on camera, but the problem is I don't really have a wide enough angle, and I don't want to include my face really, so. Kind of has to say how it is. One thing that I might at some point spring for, despite the expense, is an additional overhead camera so that you could see what I'm doing. But the problem is then I would need to do a whole bunch of figuring stuff out to make that work. Like, how do you actually have two camera views on your stream? I don't know how to do that. And really want to spend my extremely limited spare time figuring it out, so I probably won't. But that's the one thing that I would add if I could, because I think that would make it a lot more interesting to watch. I feel like it's a little easier on Twitch, but I don't want to stream on Twitch for multiple reasons. One of the big ones being that, as far as I can tell, there's really no interest in fiber arts content on Twitch, but then I've seen multiple people stream spinning on YouTube. I think there's just more fiber artists on YouTube than there are on Twitch. And then there's a lot of other reasons too. Like I already have this set up. This is where all my people are. I don't want to move. And I tried Twitch initially, and I straight up could not figure out how it worked. So that didn't help. Okay. This is the 8th one. We're really churning through this. It's giving me some decent hope that I will not spend the next like 10 fucking years spinning for this blanket. Because I think especially once we're no longer experimenting, that is going to help me speed up a bit. And also the fact that I've gotten so much faster just in a few practice runs, like just in the last couple of streams, I've gotten, I think, twice as fast, if I had to guess. That makes me hope that eventually I might actually be able to reach wool levels of speed, and I can spin wool pretty fast. So if I can get cotton spinning to that speed, I'll be happy for sure. Let's see. Seems like a pretty decent frowning. The reason that I call it frowning, by the way, is because that sort of like taking a look and seeing how much it bows. It's also important when you're knitting Fair Isle. Like it's important to make sure that your floats aren't too tight. And when I started spinning cotton, it was intuitive to me to check the tension of the puni itself with that sort of method. Now in Fair Isle, you can call it smiling, is what I've heard people call it, when it's like doing a nice little loop. And that seems to be upside down with spinning, so it looks more like a frown. So I call it frowning. I don't know if that is, like, I think it is indicative of something. Like it gives me some information. I'm still a little bit too new to be able to fully decipher it. But I wonder if that's what everybody else also calls it, or at least English-speaking people with a history of knitting. Maybe that's what they call it as well. I don't know. It's what I call it. I mean, there's just not, the number of cotton spinners is, on this continent anyway, is so much lower than the number of wool spinners. And there's already very few wool spinners. So, like, it's not like I'm a member of an exclusive club. More like I am trying to look up things and there's no info on it. Or I'm trying to find other people doing something similar and there's not. Like, they exist, but I can't find them. Which, I don't know. I found in a lot of ways that when I'm learning a new skill like this, I don't actually receive very much help from watching tutorials or reading things like that. I really just have to puzzle through it myself. And I think that's probably the dyslexia of it all. Sometimes it's literally harder to read it than it is to figure out how to do it myself from scratch. So that's what I do a lot of the time. So it's not, I don't think it's actually caused me very many problems. That's few people are spinning flax. or cotton. And of course, it's not actually that few people are spinning cotton. There's probably a hell of a lot of people who are spinning cotton. It's just a lot of them are like in India. That's where a lot of the cotton spinning goes on, and where a lot of the skill and talent is. Well, quite a few Indians speak English. It seems to be, and this is mostly informed by what my ex-fiance told me, so I might be wrong. Um, but it seems to me that most of the cotton spinning going on in India is also from older generations who are probably less inclined to post about it on the internet, and also less likely to have English skills or be confident in those skills. Just do it in English. And like, why would you really? There's just much less of an audience for it in English. But yeah, most of the info I've gotten about this from other sources has been in Hindi, or other Indian languages. And so it's just been pictures, because I don't really know very much Hindi. I know a small amount. Forgot that pretty quick, if I'm being honest. And I wasn't very good at it to begin with. But that's how I know that it's certainly possible to thick spin cotton well, is because I have seen pictures of people doing it, and it's beautiful. So I know it can be done. I just need to probably put several more years into learning it, and then I'll get there. That's my guess. This one is coming out a lot more slubby. I also really don't remember how I did it, like how I rolled it up. So I don't know. I did notice that I think I overfilled it a little. That might be the source of the slubbiness. It's hard to tell. You're still planning to join the cotton spinners soon? Nice. I would love to see how it goes for you. Like, if you ever want to tag me on Tumblr, I would love to see it. Hello, Zertra. It's nice to have you in. No worries about being late. I don't think there's much to miss, because it is sort of the same thing each time. It differs slightly, but nothing groundbreaking has occurred. I do think I've gotten a lot better this stream, like compared to last stream. I think I've gotten better with rolling them. So that's very nice. But otherwise, no huge changes. I'll probably just do this last one. Maybe one more after this, because we're almost at the hour-and-a-half mark. Although that said, it really only takes like 10 minutes to fly all this, so I could probably go to an hour 45 with no issues. I just don't know if my shoulders are up for it, so we'll see. Okay. Who knows, maybe this was the stream where you understood cotton on a cosmic level. Maybe if I did some shrooms. I actually think that, because I've done shrooms a fair few times, and I have enjoyed the hell out of it pretty much every time, but I've always been a little too out of it to do any spinning or anything like that, or even knitting. I'm kind of too preoccupied with what my ceiling looks like or my plants most of the time. But I bet spinning cotton while tripping on shrooms would probably lead to that. But I wouldn't stream it. I wouldn't make a lick of sense. So I think it would be really unpleasant to watch. Okay, this one's breaking. So I think it's probably not going to be as nice. But I think it really is quite helpful to practice still making a decent puni, even when you've already messed it up. Because like, unless your only plan for when you've when you've messed up a puni while rolling it, unless your only plan is to totally recard it and start again, you're still going to have to deal with it. So you want to make the best of what you can. Yeah, it's actually not much frowning. Oops. It's not too bad. We'll see. So yeah, I think learning how to make the best of it is actually pretty important nonetheless, even though it's obviously not ideal. Go forward. Your spelling's not good? Don't worry about it. My spelling is rarely good either. I found myself in the last couple of streams, like I seem to be smoothing it down the way that one might with a worsted yarn. And I do want to, like, it'd be nice if this came out worsted, but I don't know if that's really possible for cotton, because the long draw really seems to be the only way to make this happen. With any speed, anyway. Like, I guess I could really, really slowly do it. But even so, running my hands, or like running my fingers over it to smooth it down, it allows me to remove the fluffy bits or tamp down the fluffy bits. And I think it's also kind of compacting it a little bit, which is, as far as I can tell, preferable if you're going for a durable yarn anyway, which I am. And I think I bring it up because I only just now figured out how to do it where it doesn't also take longer. Like typically I do a couple extra trebles while I smooth it down. But I figured out how to do it just now without doing those extra trebles most of the time. So that's nice. Okay. I don't know. Do we call it there or do we do one more? Drink of water. Oh. Damn it. I grabbed a container that I thought had a couple of edibles in it. I was going to take one. Because I take them every night to sleep. But it's empty. And I'm too lazy to get up right now, so I'll postpone that until I'm done with the stream, I suppose. Do I want to do one more? I'm on the fence about it. I think I'll do it. Mostly comes down to my shoulders and time. And I think my shoulders are okay, and time seems to be okay, so we'll do it. That'll put us at, let's see, 6 plus 7, 13. Wow, that's a lot, actually. Cool. Hopefully we'll get more yardage this time. Last time we got literally the exact same amount of yardage. I figured out why when I was knitting it up. The first, well, one half is like incredibly thick, and the other half is about the weight that I've been working with. So that is where all that extra fiber went. Yeah, so hopefully, I think I've spun this one a little bit more neatly. And I'm hoping we'll actually get more yardage. Maybe we'll actually get into the 20s this time. I still think it's really funny that he guessed the exact number last time. So that's hilarious. Wait, no, it's not 6 plus 7. What am I thinking? It's 6 plus 5, which is 11. That's still a decent number, I think. We're definitely still happy with that. And it's good to know, like, I think 15 would be doable without too much trouble if I skip the wool warm-up, which I probably will be doing when we're actually, like, working on the project. We'll probably skip the wool warm-up for that. You know, maybe we'll do some projects in between, because I'm sure this will take a while, but I don't necessarily want to make it take longer by always doing another project, unless it's really preferred. But as far as I can tell, most people are ambivalent to it. And I found, like, because the wool warm-up, it takes up the first, 15 to 30 minutes of the stream, and that's typically when nobody's in yet anyway. Not this time, but generally speaking. But, if it's, once we get to the point that we're doing the exact same thing every time, I don't think you're going to be missing much in those first 15 to 30 minutes. So, yeah, I think we could do 15 poonies pretty easily in 2 hours if I didn't do the wool warm-up and if I wasn't experimenting, which will be the case when I'm actually working on my project. I just want to know how much yardage I'll get from that, though. I have had this problem, like, I don't think I usually have it, but today I've had this problem where it just runs way too thin, apropos of nothing, as far as I can tell. Like, I don't know what's causing the thinness, because I don't think it's the prep. It might just be me pulling too hard. I don't know. So I'm having to rejoin it quite a lot today, and that hasn't been an issue with the other ones. So I don't know. But the yarn itself is turning out okay, because I've been fixing it each time. I don't really want thread weight mixed with my super bulky. Well, it's not super bulky. It's gonna be more worsted. Maybe the bulky. I want to start aiming for worsted to save on time and materials, and because I think it it'll probably be better as a blanket than a bulky or a super bulky. But actually dialing in on an exact thickness, really hard still. Like, I still gotta figure that out. So, I don't know. God, it's so satisfying to watch all the lumps pull out. It's really nice. Sometimes I think these flubs are forming around bits of debris in the fire. And that really can't be helped on my end, because they're not ever going to come out during coding. It's not happening. Like, maybe if I could switch to a much lower TPI set of cards, like probably even less than my wool cards, it might come out then, but it wouldn't properly process it then, so I don't think it would. So we're kind of just stuck with whatever is in here, which is a little bit of a bummer, but also not the end of the world. It's still resulting in a really nice yarn. And, since I spun that super thorny Deboulet, I realized, like, if you can still use it and it doesn't give you splinters, it's fine. It might be a bit of a pain, but it's fine. All right. So that was 11 boonies. That was pretty good. You don't know how you did it? Yeah, it was very lucky. Or it could have been raw skill. Who can say? You have been considering trying to card some on your wool cards. Yours is already debrised. Oh, debrised. I know what you mean by that. I just have no idea how to pronounce it. I think it's worth trying. Depending on the TPI of your cards, if it's 70 like mine are, you're probably going to have some difficulty, but you still might be able to get a decent prep. And if you have a higher TPI, like if you went for some fine wool cards, I think you could do it and get something worth spinning and worth using. Because, like, my issue with trying to do this on wool cards was just that it wasn't as easy. Like, it wasn't as good. And since I wanted to dedicate a long time and a lot of effort to spinning cotton with these things, it seemed worth it to buy some cotton cards. But I had already made that choice. And in the interim, I still managed to make some pretty good boonies on my wool cards. So I think if you want to, you should totally give it a try. Like, I would not be able to do it with any speed on my wool cards. And that's really one of the main issues. And I think it wouldn't be quite as neat on my wool cards, even now knowing what I know. But you can still totally do it. Okay. This is a nice bobbin. Like, in terms of the amount on there, I'm happy with it. By the way, you own cards but haven't dared to use them yet. Your question is, how do you clean them when there's debris on them? Good question. Let me trap that real quick so I can show you. It's very simple. These have no debris on them, but I'll show you anyway. Here's how you clean them. You flip them so that the tines are facing down. And hopefully this isn't too loud. You just set them together like that. and all the debris will fall onto the floor. So you want to do it outside, but that's it. It's very simple. It's pretty satisfying, and it only takes half a second. So if that's what's holding you back, you should totally give it a shot. The other thing is modern cards seem to last quite a while. Even when you use them very fast and loose like I do, like I'm not careful with my cards. I was initially, and then I realized I didn't need to be. So you don't, like, even if there's visible damage to the tines, they will keep working for quite a long time after that. So you don't need to worry about messing them up too bad. Be careful as much as you can, especially while you're learning, but don't worry too bad if the tines get messed up. You use a bamboo skewer to pick it out. Interesting. That would definitely work too, but I like hitting them together. I sometimes use a bamboo skewer if I can't pick it out, or like a knitting needle rather, but an analog for a bamboo skewer. If I can't pick it out, I will use that. Or if I'm somewhere where, like, inside carding for some reason, I don't usually card inside if I can help it. But I might not cover my floor in debris in that situation either. So that's a neater way to do it, but you can, either way works, whatever your preference is. You have a few bent tines too. I have so many bent tines. Yeah, it's fine. Usually you have a bit of wool in there too, so things get stuck. Yeah, for sure. I've found I don't tend to spin breeds or spin in the grease. Like I don't spin in the grease, and then I don't spin greasy breeds that often, where it'll get stuck so much. For me, it seems like the greasiness is what determines whether or not it's going to stick to my cards. I don't know if that's true though. It might be off the mark, but it seems like that's what it is. And I really hate spinning in the grease, and I really like washing my wool. So it doesn't come up that often. Ugh, I hate it when I do this to myself. I didn't chain long enough, so now I've got one hand holding this inside here, and one hand trying to chain, and it's not working. Try and be smarter about it. This is the kind of situation where having a leader wouldn't help me that much. Might help a little bit though. But overall, the issue is just starting the chain, getting everything set. And I also found that attaching a chain to a leader was like so much more difficult than anything else that I was doing. And it was already kind of hard to do it with a leader. So I don't know. I guess that is mostly how I'll be attaching my plied stuff. I suppose I could set up one with a leader for spinning and one without, but I still don't really know if that would even help me very much, because I'd have to take the time to get used to it. And I already tried doing that in the past and I didn't really get very far. I mean, I think it's often worth doing multiple shots at something like that over time, because the more experience I get, the easier really every part of spinning is. But I don't know if it's worth the time to try. What I mean. You don't have a backyard, but you can lay a towel down or something. You can also do it over a trash can, which I would recommend. And my hand cards, like my wool cards, are quite a bit smaller. So unless you got the full-sized wool cards, which would be the same size as my cotton cards, unless you got those, they're smaller, so they should fit over a trash can pretty obligingly. I also don't have a backyard, though. I do it in the alleyway. when I'm carding outside. You seem to get short fibers stuck in there no matter what you do. Yeah, I wonder if you've got a lot of second cuts. I don't know what you're trying to card. If it's fleece, I wonder if you've got a lot of second cuts in that fleece, because those will get stuck pretty badly. But most of the time, that's not an issue for me that often. And it's only an issue when I'm trying to card something with a lot of second cuts. So if nothing else, hopefully that particular issue is fleece related, or really shearing related. It's got little to do with the fleece, a lot more to do with the person's in their experience, and somewhat to do with the sheep and its temperament, and whether it's going to try and resist being shorn. Some of them are definitely not pleased. As far as I can tell, it comes down to, like, they don't want to be manhandled, and it's pissing them off. Which is I wouldn't really enjoy it either. I think the haircut part would be fine, but the being manhandled part would piss me off too. But anyway, yeah, I don't think that's not usually a problem for me, and I don't think it's a typical problem unless there is actually something slightly wrong with your sleeves. The good news is, if they're getting stuck in the tines, then they're not going into your prep, and you don't want those in your prep. So that's actually kind of saving you there. Like, no matter what those short fibers are, if they're neps, or if it's just like a really short area of the fleece, you don't want that in your prep anyway. So picking it out after would actually probably be preferable to it staying in the wool. Or at least that's my 2 cents on that. There are second cuts, yeah, that makes sense. You don't pick them out by hand. You do buy cheap fleece, though. I am in the same boat. I don't pick mine out by hand either, and I also buy cheap fleece. I'm usually buying like dirt cheap fleece, and part of that is because a lot of super grimy fleeces will be sold very cheaply, and I don't like washing the grime out at all. I kind of enjoy it, so I can save an awful lot of money on an otherwise really nice fleece that is just like the sheep rolled around in the mud prior to being shorn. But I also do end up with ones with lots of second cuts, just as you do. And I'm not about to go pick them all out. I guess mine don't tend to stay in the cards after I knock it out. Like, knocking it out removes it. So since I don't have to do anything different, I don't tend to think about it that often. Usually there's a pretty thick layer of stuff underneath that, and so the force the back tried to come out will that'll knock the second cuts out too. What are second cuts? When they go back over the same area again when shearing. Yeah, that's what I was about to say. Exactly that. It's typically due to either the person shearing it lacking experience, or because you could accidentally go over the same area not even knowing. Although if you've had somebody train you, hopefully you know better, better than to do it on purpose anyway. Or it's just due to the animal bucking a lot, generally trying to be a menace. Usually a combination of both. I found some old accounts of, by old I mean like 18th century, or not 18th century, 1800s, 17th century? Anyway, from the 1800s, where people were complaining about how these days nobody knows how to not get second cuts in the wool. You have to do it yourself. Modern sheep shearers are a total scam, etc., etc. It's very funny to me. It has a distinct feel of kids these days. So I get the feeling that that has perhaps been an issue for all of time, or at least since we stopped brewing sheep. It's just very funny to read about. I'm starting to think that the people counter on this, because it says how many people are on stream, and it says 1 right now, but I see 2 of you in chat, so there's got to be at least you 2. I'm like, why does it say only 1? I'm starting to think it's maybe not that accurate, which kind of makes me feel happy if it tends to err on fewer people than are actually there. Either that, or maybe like if one's internet cuts out, I can see how perhaps that would do that as well. But it tends to last for a while, so I don't know. That's half kids these days. Half, I guess, standards got lowered for wool now. Yeah, true. We have a friend who's very into sewing. He's very mad at the fact that he can't get linen that hasn't been olden already. I don't quite know what word that is. But yeah, I know what you mean. Like, I mean, it's part of it is that the quality of everything has dropped massively in the last decade or so. But even before that, people would be complaining, and it's like, I don't know if it's actually gotten worse, or maybe if you've gotten a little bit more picky with time. Because I've seen that in myself. I've gotten more picky with wool. I don't know if it's as I've got older or it's as I've spun more and figured out what was and wasn't worth my time. I've definitely got pickier. And I found myself bemoaning the Etsy wool market a couple of times, but it's like, I don't think it's changed. I think I'm just more picky. I will say like trying to get good linen, pickings are slim unless you have a massive budget. So I do not envy your friends trying to get some good linen to work with. You're just mad you can't get linen that isn't chopped up to turn on. You're just mad you can't get linen that isn't chopped up to turn on or to run on cotton equipment. For real. I really hope I get the chance to work with some actual flax strick at some point, because even when I have shelled out and tried to buy flax strick, it still was chopped up. And I was so pissed off. Like, there's no, other than running on cotton equipment, there's no reason to chop it up. And if you're selling it for hand spinning, it's just an affront to spinning itself. Actually, I didn't mean to put that one on. Hang on. Let's put my wool one back on. It's so frustrating. Like, I understand that people are not going to be pulling them out of the ground rather than cutting them. And that is how you'll get the longest, best staple length. I get that. It's fine. You know, I have lowish standards because most people aren't spinning flax anymore. But why would you destroy it? Or at least massively degrade the quality so that it can run on modern equipment when you're about to sell it to hand spinners? Just insulting. You bought a flax strick. It is very coarse. You have been disappointed. Yeah, that's fair. That sucks that it was coarse. It's so hard to find good flax to spin. That's part of the reason I stopped spinning it. Like, I spin it on occasion, but it's all such poor quality that it's like, I don't know if it's worth my time. So I definitely know what you mean. There's probably cases where the complaints are about that one apprentice not doing it the way you want or something. Yeah, for sure. And I'm sure that that has been the case for like the entirety of human history, because we do love to complain, and there's nothing wrong with that. I myself am a great enjoyer of complaining. I mean, how else do you get through the day if not by complaining voraciously about it? I'm trying to wind this in a way that will make um, the strands a little bit more spread out. So hopefully I can show you guys easier. Because I think like it's a bit unfair at the guessing game when I can actually see how many strands there are. It's just that I'm not counting them and couldn't count them. Although that said, given last time, I don't know if you guys need the advantage or if I need an advantage, but I'll try and do it anyway. We'll see. You'd grow it, but there is so much processing. You don't think you can physically do all that? Yeah, that's exactly where I was too. Even when I was like not so disabled that I couldn't have a garden, it was pretty clear to me that all of these steps of processing fleece would just be way too difficult for me, physically speaking, which sucks. Because I would love to do that. Like I've seen some people get to do, like backyard flax growing and then spin it and then like weave that and then make that into a pair of pants. I think is one of the things I've seen people do, and I was like spitting with jealousy pretty much. All right, here's what we got. I think this is more strands than last time. Um, just to be clear about that. My guess is 29 again. I'm going to guess the exact same number, 29. What are your guesses? Keep guessing while I count it. I will count it in my head though. All right. Search, you are insane. It's 24. And you guessed it again. Okay, you're both closer than I was. 25, 24. Yeah, it was 24. I guess 29. That's so funny. Here it is. Uh, Only 24 again. I mean, well, no. Last time it was only 18, but I feel like it should be more. I feel like I put a lot more material into this, so it should be more. But yeah, you're either very lucky or very good at this, Sergio. It's really funny to me. I think it's a lot more even than the last one was from yesterday's stream. That one I've already knit into a square, and it's not even at all. It's pretty bad. But this one I think is a lot better. And I'm guessing that that is largely due to the fact that last time we didn't know what to go off of at all in terms of how to process it, or in terms of how much tension, rather. But today we had a decent idea just to start out with. So yeah, I think that was good. I just have to spend more next time. I know. That's not what I want the answer to be, though. I want the answer to be I spend the same amount and it magically stretches slightly farther. But it clearly doesn't work like that. Well, that was quite a pleasant stream. Thank you both for hanging out on chat, and thank you to anyone who stopped by. I am going to go to bed, but I think unless something goes very wrong, I imagine I'll be spinning tomorrow as well. And I think we've conclusively answered this. Well, conclusively is a strong word, but I think we don't need to experiment with this particular thing anymore, at least for a while. I think I'm pretty satisfied that I understand about how much tension needs to be added. I don't know if I could explain it, but I know in my brain. So that's about as good as it's going to get. So tomorrow we'll be answering a different question. So that's nice. Yeah. Thank you both for being here. Good night.